Trey Sermon versus DavisPrice. Real quick before I say what I've seen, when you evaluated both of them on tape from college, did they have similarities and differences? How do
I'd
you
say one
compare
of
them?
the bigger differences that I saw was that Davis Price, I felt like he did a really good job of it. It kind of reminded me, not saying he's Frank Gore, but there was this ability to really put his foot in the ground, get north right now, get skinny, and his breakaway speed. I say breakaway. He had bigger runs than
Mhm.
Sermon was a little better. I just thought the acceleration, and then once he kind of got to that second level, guys just didn't want to tackle him at all. I thought he brought a little bit more power, and I remember it being very clear why I felt like the 49ers felt like he'd be a good kind of combination with Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah. And I could
The
see
vision was good. My bad. His vision. I thought his
vision.
vision was good.
Okay. To me, like he's the opposite of Trey Sermon, which kind of highlights what they don't like or what they're disappointed about with Sermon. I'm not sure why they like Sermon to begin with, but he's not explosive. Davis Price is. He's not decisive. I think that's the biggest problem. He's a big running back who stops his feet in the backfield and looks to bounce outside. It's like they don't want you to do that on this team, and you're not quick and fast enough to really pull that off in the NFL. Davis Price is extremely decisive, and he just makes one cut and gets downhill and is really fast and hard to tackle. He's not like I would. It's kind of like the difference between Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert. Tevin Coleman was always trying to like make the cutback or do something flashy. At least that's the way I saw it. Raheem Mostert didn't do anything flashy. He was just efficient and good. And I think that's kind of what I see from DavisPrice. He's not going to make a bunch of cuts during a run, but he's probably better than Trey Sermon right now, the way I see it. Yeah.
That's not good news for Trey Sermon. And I was asked about him potentially having, kind of a good second year. Was it just a one off? And
He's
I
in
think
good
it's very,
shape.
yeah, well, shape, that's one thing. But Kyle
Yeah.
Shanahan, there's just certain guys he just doesn't really care for. And when he's looking for something, I, if you if you had any, I don't want to say faith, but then you don't draft a running back third round for no reason, like
Right.
back to back years. Especially after the guy in the previous year, you just didn't want to play him. And when I say didn't want to play him, there was a game where against the Seahawks, he ran for almost 100 yards. And then the very next game when Elijah Mitchell was back healthy, Trey Sermon ran for 7 yards, on one carry. So I don't think Kyle Shanahan likes him.
So someone was asked about some. I think it was someone was asked about Kyle. Someone asked Kyle Juszczyk about sort of the changing running scheme or like what they're looking for in the running backs, and he's like, "Yeah, we don't really have Raheem Mostert anymore, but any running back who gets downhill in our scheme fits our scheme." And that was funny. It's like, oh, like so not Trey Sermon. So what you're saying?
Right.
That's why. And I remember when John Lynch was a an announcer. He was announcing a Niner game against Seattle. I think it was 2016. And he mentioned, he's like, oh, I talked to, how they would do before the game? I talked to Tom Rathman, and he said, they really like Carlos Hyde. They just really want him to get downhill and stop bouncing runs outside. It's like, yeah, you just got the next Ohio State running back who does that.
Right.
Yeah, I can see the Niners being like, dude, we're a physical football team. Get downhill. And if you won't, DavisPrice will. So how do you want to do it? That's kind of what it is from what I see. I did want to point out, though, that the Niners have now spent 2 round 3 picks back-to-back years on running backs when they have a serious issue at offensive line. So I want to point out some offensive linemen that they could have had instead of
Hold
these
on,
two
real
guys.
quick. Before you do that, I do have a question. How did the
Sure.
Mason kid look?
He looks good. I think he's going to be on the practice squad and to be a guy who they eventually work onto the team like Jeff Wilson Jr. a few years ago. I don't think anyone's going to take him from the Niners. I think he's going
Right.
to be a nice project on their practice squad. He looks good. He runs really
My
hard.
my issue with them drafting running backs in the third round is you find these guys late, 6th round undrafted, but then you still use high draft capital, which third round, that's high draft capital on running backs,
Right.
especially after one didn't work out and the 6th round pick was just better. So
Right.
it's like, why continue to spend that high draft capital on guys when you're finding guys like Mason who just kind of fit what you do, even if it's not splashy?
Right. And the Shanahan's have been doing that for decades. Meanwhile, if you want to get a good offensive lineman, you probably should get him in the first couple of rounds, at least round 3. And so look, last year they took Trey Sermon like 10 picks over Spencer Brown, who's the current starting right tackle for the Bills. I don't know if he's great, but the Niners did a right tackle
He's
unless
starting.
McGlinchey comes back strong. And then this year they took DavisPrice over Logan Bruss, who's the starting right guard for the Rams. I don't know if he's good, but these are just people to monitor because the Niners have an issue on the offensive line, and they could have addressed it and said they chose running backs, which is like, I mean, that's like if we were general managers, we wouldn't do that. It's surprising that Kyle does it. So we'll see. Justin says practices like today will help Lance with adversity. Maybe why so many 3 stringers are playing with the first team right now versus a dominant defense. Yeah, he's not getting touched, so he's under a lot of pressure, but it's not dangerous. Okay, see what you mean. Official BNA Music 88 says, you think Kyle's arm better than Purdy's? He was slinging it a little bit. Oh, were you there today? Yeah, Kyle likes throwing. Did you have coaches who would do that in practice?
Yeah, well, so one of my coaches, Tim McDonald, obviously he played with the 49ers. Tim McDonald, he was terrible throwing the ball. Like it was, and he always wanted to throw the ball in the drills. And I mean, his throwing motion, people talk about Trey Lance's throwing motion, man. Tim McDonald's was like, it was like Phillip Rivers on crack. Like, if you think of that type of throwing motion, like it was terrible. But yeah, I definitely have had a lot of coaches that try to live out some childhood dream of being a quarterback.
I didn't know he was a coach. I was an intern at KTVU in 2010, and he used to come in and be a guest all the time. He was a cool guy.
Yeah, he coached at Edison High School in Fresno.
Okay.
And then I believe like the collegiate ranks, and then next thing I know, he's coaching in the NFL. Coached with the Jets for some years. He was our lead defensive back coach, and then I know he was with Buffalo with all those guys as well, Rex Ryan's guys.
Doesn't he have kids in the league or kids who are?
He had 2 boys, one at UCLA, one at USC, and TJ McDonald played some years in the NFL with like the Rams and stuff.
Rams, yeah, that's
Rams,
cool.
Dolphins, I think.